Hello everyone, welcome to Fantastic. When I decided to make a video on the topic of electronic vehicles, there were many questions which were coming in my mind. Like, what is the future of electronic vehicles? Why do we need to adapt these electronic vehicles? And where do we stand as a nation in the manufacture of electronic vehicles? While doing the research for the same, I actually found out answer to many of such questions. So that is what I am going to present to you today. So without further ado, let's just dive into the topic. Sooner or later, the world has to adapt to electronic vehicles and it has become inevitable. But the real important question is when? When are we going to make changes accordingly and how much longer will this whole process take? Before understanding that, let's just understand the bifurcation of these electronic vehicles and let's understand the categories they are divided into. So these are the four categories. First one being conventional hybrids, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, battery electric vehicles, and then fuel cell electric vehicles. Starting with the conventional ones. Now, conventional hybrids combine both a gasoline engine with an electric motor. While these vehicles have an electric motor and battery, they can't be plugged in and recharged. Instead, the batteries are charged from capturing energy when braking, using regenerative braking that converts kinetic energy into electricity. This energy is actually normally wasted in conventional vehicles. Next up is PHEVs. Now, PHEVs are similar to conventional hybrids. They have both electric motor and internal combustion engine, except PHEVs batteries can be charged by plugging into an outlet. So why do we opt for a PHEV instead of a conventional hybrid? Well, unlike conventional hybrids, PHEVs can substitute electricity from the grid for gasoline. Next up is BEVs. Now, BEVs run exclusively on electricity via onboard batteries that are charged by plugging into an outlet or a charging station. These vehicles have no gasoline engine but longer electric drive ranges compared to PHEVs. The last one is FCEVs. FCEVs use an electric-only motor like a BEV but stores energy quite a bit differently. Instead of recharging a battery, FCEVs store hydrogen gas in a tank. The fuel cells in FCEVs combines hydrogen with oxygen from the air to produce electricity. The electricity from the fuel cells then power the electric motor, which powers the vehicle just like a BEV. Now, unlike BEVs or PHEVs, however, there is no need to plug in FCEVs since their fuel cells are recharged by refilling the gas with hydrogen, which can take as little as 5 minutes at a filling station. The sales of electronic vehicles and the contribution in the total sales of the auto industry of these electronic vehicles are increasing rapidly all over the world. This is due to actually their increased range, government subsidies provided, low battery cost, and of course the environmental benefits. 2.5% of the market share of new car sales in December 2019 was alone achieved by plug-in passenger cars. So why do we still see that electronic vehicles are not becoming apple of one eye in India? Let's just take a look at few of the reasons. The first reason being the price difference. Now, there is a huge difference between the petrol variant and electric variant of the same model. Let's take an example of Tata. Now, Tata Nexon XM model is available around 8 lakh rupees to buy. So if you want to buy the same variant or same model in electric variant, it will cost you around 14 lakh rupees. Even if we consider the subsidies like government subsidies, which is actually 1.5 lakhs, and a 2 lakh savings which we will be doing on the fuels as per Tata Motors website calculation, over a 5-year period of time, this might not feel very attractive. But if we consider the environmental advantages, the electric variant still stands tall. The other reason being lack of charging stations. Though as a nation we should be and we are promoting electronic vehicles, there is lack of infrastructural developments. Electronic vehicles actually need more space for charging than the conventional vehicles. Because in the case of a conventional vehicle, it takes 2 to 3 minutes to fill the tank. But in the case of electronic vehicles, if you want to fully charge a battery, it will take around 1 to 1.5 hours. So we need charging stations where at least 50 cars can charge at the same time. And the third reason being, as a society, we still don't adapt to the changes as easily as compared to the people globally. These are actually not my words, you can look at the numbers. The actual numbers will show you. Now we'll see a graph which has actually been published by ICCT. the International Council on Clean Transportation. Now this graph is showing you the percentage of market share an electric vehicle has in various countries, basically passenger electric vehicle shares. So in China, if we see since 2010 to now, the percentage is above 5% of the total shares. Electric vehicles are capturing the market more than 5%. In UK, we have it between 3 to 4%. Even the global average is about 2.5%. But we see countries like Brazil and India which are actually struggling still below 1%. So these are the numbers which show that Indians have actually not adapted very easily to the change of electric vehicles. Now, after looking at the actual numbers, you can easily understand that we have not adapted to the electronic vehicles as easily as compared to the people globally. So why do we need to adapt these electronic vehicles? So let's just take a look at some of the benefits, like the highlight points why we need to adapt these electronic vehicles. The biggest and the most important benefit India can have as a nation is reduction in import bills. India imports about 17 to 18 ton millions of crude oil every year, which quenches 80% of our fuel thirst. So this imports actually account to more than 25% of our import bill. So if we can adapt these electronic vehicles as early as possible, we can curb our import bills, which will actually very much be beneficial in our balance of trade. And the other important reason being, or other important benefit being, the environmental benefits. Now, as per Tata Motors research, we can save carbon dioxide equivalent to 73 grown trees. This is actually when we are considering the example of the same model, which is Tata Nexon XM, which we took to compare the prices. On an average, if we calculate, an electric car can save up to 1.5 million grams of carbon dioxide emissions. This will not only help to reduce the air pollution, but the noise pollution as well. Now, many researchers may counter that by saying, what about the pollution which happens when manufacture of these electronic vehicles? Well, yes, it is true that more than a third of the lifetime of carbon dioxide emissions from electric car come from the energy used to make the car itself. But even if we consider the battery manufacturing, electric cars are still the greener options, because this is due to the reduction of emissions created over the car's lifetime. If we dig a little deeper into the topic of battery manufacture, we know actually this happens because of the lithium ion batteries. So if we find out a way to replace this kind of batteries with better ones, or if we find out a way to recycle such batteries, which is actually also a growing market, which can create opportunities like this and also help to reduce the environmental impact, the lifetime environmental impact because of the battery manufacture. Another loophole, or a small loophole you might say to consider, is what about the emissions which are done during the electricity generation? Well, do not have to worry about that. Even after considering the emissions during the electricity generations, the carbon emissions from the electric vehicles are 17 to 30% lower than that of a petrol or a diesel car variant. This is actually a research done by European Energy Agency. Now, I know these benefits are, in the number of benefits, I can tell there are two benefits I can count, which is environmental benefits and the import bill benefits. But I think the quality of the benefits which we are going to have is actually much more important than the quantity of benefits or the list of benefits we might be looking for. These two benefits are so huge that they will invariably and indirectly are going to impact the other sectors as well, which is also in a good term and which will be beneficial not just to the two benefits which I highlighted, but it will ultimately also indirectly impact to the other aspects of the sectors or other sectors available in India. We know these benefits are there, but still we know that we are also struggling for the lack of infrastructure. So lack of infrastructure can be done how? If we start working on the infrastructure. Slowly and steadily the charging stations can be built on highways. We have seen slight changes in the realty sector. There have been a few infrastructural developments where the buildings are now coming with built-in plugins for the electric vehicles, so they can charge the electric vehicles while parked in the buildings. If we also see government promoting these electric vehicles, like telling people about the benefits or the subsidies they given for the electric vehicles, or highlighting the benefits of these electric vehicles by telling people how it can benefit you individually as well as how it can benefit India as a nation or an environment to the world, how it can benefit our environment as well. So we can definitely know that electric vehicles are much greener and much better options. So I also just want to highlight a graph which actually shows what is the targeted percentage of the market share which India might be capturing in the coming decade. So let's just take a look at that first. Just look at this graph. Now this graph is actually share of electric vehicles, not just the historical numbers but the targeted numbers or the targeted percentage for the various countries. Now historically we are still struggling below 1% as we have seen earlier, but by the year 2030 India is actually expected to grow up to more than 20%. It is actually between 20 to 40%. I think it's 30% of the market share of the new car sales will be of electric vehicles. So we are estimating a huge growth in the upcoming years for the electric vehicles in India, and that is the reason we should be looking at this sector very prominently, or we should be looking at this as an opportunity. Now how do we see it as an opportunity? Let's just understand that. Also, small thing to highlight, there are many European metro cities which are planning to obsolete petrol cars and diesel cars. Now London is planning to obsolete petrol cars by the year 2040, and China has taken a target of becoming carbon neutral by the year of 2060. Like other countries, in India as well, we have estimated a good growth in the electronic vehicles. Now the estimated growth is also coming in the next 10 years, which is by 2030. So even if this estimation does not totally come true, even if it is 50% true, there will be still a good growth in the volume of electronic vehicles in India. See, when the volume increases, gradually the prices to maintain these electronic vehicles and to buy these electronic vehicles will also move southwards, which can let us avail more and more benefits. But how can you participate in not just the growth by buying an electric vehicle, also by investing into it, investing into the growth of these electronic vehicles? So that can be done by participating in the financial markets. So that is actually going to be our topic of the next video. In the next video, we are going to highlight which sectors are going to be participant in this growth of electronic vehicles, which stocks to consider, where you can park your money financially to avail the benefits, more and more benefits, not just by buying a vehicle or an electric vehicle, and also just by investing it into financially, like investing it into the financial markets. So please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon because you'll get notified when the next video comes up, which will be not much away, I'm hoping that. And do like the video if you like the content. It encourages us to make more and more content like this, and if there is any feedback, please do leave a comment. Thank you. Did you know the first ever electric cars were invented in 1800s? In 1828, Anius Jedlik invented an early type of electric motor and created a small model car powered by his new motor.